And we have a show that focuses in the first hour on the state of Texas. As somebody who I've got to know through the progressive networks across America, who I've got incredible reverence for, Clayton Tucker is running for to be the state commissioner of agriculture. And that, of course, is a position that was previously held by the great Jim Hightower. And both Jim Hightower and Clayton Tucker, along with Kristi Lara from the Progressive Caucus of the Texas Democratic Party, will be joining us in the first hour. Now, the focus will be upon the question of the importance of progressive politics in rural and small town America, and the role and the impact of the state Commissioner of Agriculture in Texas, and of course, Clayton's election that's upcoming. But of course, we will be talking about the state that has dominated national and even to a degree global headlines over the past week or so because of the tragedy in Kerrville, Texas. And also, there's a suggestion by the governor, Governor Abbott of Texas, that and by Republicans in the state that they will respond to Donald Trump's wishes to see the congressional districts redrawn in Texas, which could have a major impact on the 2026 midterm elections. And so Texas will be our focus. In the second hour, we'll return to a short focus upon a race that we're very involved in, which is taking place on Tuesday, which is the special election in Arizona's 7th District, where we have endorsed Adelita Grijalva. And she is in a race which the pundits are saying they expect to be a close race. And so we are pulling out all our stops in the state of Arizona and everyone across the country to volunteer, to get on the phones, to call into the 7th District, and to do everything we can to have a progressive champion, Adelita Grijalva, following the footsteps of really one of the great progressive champions of late 20th century and early 21st century American politics, Raul Grijalva. So that is coming up in the second hour. And after that, we're going to be joined by Selena Vickers. Selena has been just an exceptional activist within the DNC. Like Jim Zogby comes to mind, she has really fought the good fight inside the DNC to try.
Oh, Alan's locked.
Yep. All right. Donna, did you have any
Sure.
comments that you'd like to share while we're getting Alan back?
That's perfect. Yes, Mike, thank you very much. And hello, I can see Jim Hightower on my screen, which makes me so happy. And I put a picture behind me. My background this week is actually the last time I was in Austin and had the pleasure of spending time with Jim at his home and office. It was wonderful to be there many years ago. I hate that tie-dye shirt now, but that was what I wore then. Jim has always been such an inspiration to me in terms of his down to earth, just the things he says just hit the heart, hit the brain, hit the humor. I mean, I just love to listen to Jim when he's talking, and when he's writing, it's just fabulous. So it's so good to have him here to talk about Texas, because you're right. The things coming out of Texas lately have been mostly tragic, sad things that we've all worried about and thought about, along with everything else going on in our country. So I know we're anxious to get to the Texas part of the program. Mike Fox, I don't know if you want to launch in and Alan made it back. There he is. Alan, I said a little bit about Jim. I put a picture of me and Jim back there when the last time I was in Austin. God, I wore that tie-dye shirt way too much, way too much. But anyway, thank you, Alan, for letting me have a few moments and pin Jim down on being a guest on the relaunch of Positively Progressive. I've been nailed down. I have had a senator nailed down twice now, who has bailed twice now. So I'm a little frustrated, but Positively Progressive is coming back in a big way. I'd love to have Jim for a few minutes at some point. But anyway, Alan, back to you.
Oh, thank you so much. And sorry, I'm going to stay on my handheld here. How do I sound, everybody? Do I sound good?
That worked.
Good, good. I apologize. I'm having a little trouble with my connection with my my larger computer here. So I'm going to stick with this. And actually, I may switch back over and keep this on as a backup once we go to Mike Fox, which we're going to do right now for our PDA to-dos. And then we're going to come back and I'll be introducing our 3 guests from Texas. And we'll be talking all things Texas here, including an opportunity to have a progressive Democrat win a statewide election in Texas. I'm just going to talk about the whole layout of the land of the second most populous state in the country, and one in which, if progressive Democrats really get the sort of the, I think, as I was about to say when I was being cut off before, I very much have seen the Democratic Party right now as having a pretty clear divide between progressives and the neoliberal centrists. And for people like Selena Vickers who fight inside the party, it's very, very important work for all of us to transform the Democratic Party into the party that I really believe the American people want now in the 21st century. And Texas is a state that I think is it's a little bit hard to discern at times, but it's a state that is potentially transforming. And I believe that it will be progressive Democratic politics, not centrist Democratic politics, that will transform every state in the country more towards the Democratic column than the Republican column. And how that looks in Texas is a very, very important thing for all of us across the country. And this should be a fascinating hour. So Mike Fox, why don't you go ahead? I'm going to take off my video and my mute. I am going to try to get back on my bigger computer.
Righto. Can you hear me? I'm taking that as a yes. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. My end, technological challenges as well. The wonderful world of the machines. The good news is we as humans connecting here each and every Sunday are the key to us getting this ship turned around. And our special guests here today are definitely at the core of that. So as always, gang, number 1 to do on this call every week, Sunday, 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific, is to what? Revel in the fact that you're surrounded by people who get it. In these tough times, it can get a little bit depressing. I love the fact that Donna named her show Positively Progressive, because it's that positive energy that's going to get us through this and that will help buttress us all as we do the work that we are going to have to do to make this happen. So I thank you all for being here. You make me healthier as a result of just being here, and I thank you for that. Number 2 to do, take notes. We got a lot of not only good information, but likewise to-dos with deadlines coming at you. So we all got to nail those. We can't win the revolution if we can't hit a deadline, bottom line. So with that in mind, if you got something to write with right now, time and treasure, that's how we break down to-dos, right? Time, number 1, phone bank, phone bank, phone bank, phone bank, phone bank. Did I mention phone bank? We've got big election on Tuesday. We all got to be on the phones nationwide, pushing Adelita Grijalva's vote out. And if we all do that, we got a really good chance of winning that primary. And once that's done, that sucker's over. Bottom line. So we need to ensure that we are securing the late, great Raul Grijalva's seat with a solid progressive, like Raul was his entire life. So let's make that happen. If you do not see the links that we toss in the chat, if you just go to pdamerica.org and click on the volunteer link, all we're looking for is an hour. Pile on, we'll make something happen. We'll make sure that your time is used effectively, okay? To do number 2, the 17th, all of the John Lewis Good Trouble Lives On events. We hope everybody will be getting out in the street for those, not only in his memory, but to take that spirit of John Lewis and carry it with us through the challenges before us. So I'll be tossing a link into the chat to a direct map, but it's kind of long. If you just want to wrap your head around it, just go to Mobilize, mobilize.us, and the one near you boink, should magically pop up. But I'll also get that link to the national map because it looks pretty cool too. It's looking like we got about 1,000 of those going. So only good, only good. Now we got a big, fat, longer list than that. But just to save time here, I'll be tossing into the chat a link to a Google Doc that is our constantly updated dynamic to-do list. Okay. So you're going to want to bookmark that. If you don't see it, hit me up at info@pdamerica.org. We'll make sure that you have that. Secondly, we had time. Now we got treasure. Our goal on this call is always, number one, getting work done. So we focus on getting all of our volunteers cranking and generating productivity. If we don't hit our goals with volunteer labor, then we need to go out and hire some folks, candidly, because first and foremost, we're about hitting those goals. So if you give today, we're going to be focused on bringing in some young organizers across the country to help us get this thing cranking like nobody's business. And our goal isn't a figure in dollars, it's solidarity. How many total donations? You can just toss in $1. All good. If you can do more than that, please do. But the key to this call is solidarity. We're all here together. We all know that change has to happen. And the only way the kind of change that we're looking for will happen is if we are working as a team. Solidarity, okay? So I'll be back at the top of the hour with where we're at on these goals. And otherwise, back to you, Alan. You up, Alan? Have we lost Alan again? Here, hold on.
Hey, Mike Fox, I think Alan Minsky.
He's now co-hosted. Alan should be able to unmute.
And our Hightower, Texas team, they need to be added to a host also now. So
who needs to?
Clayton Tucker.
Clayton Tucker somehow got unhosted. Okay, let's make this happen. Sorry about that, Clayton. And Susan, if you'd be so kind, don't let anybody in the room right this second. It has a negative effect on my ability to co-host a person. Again, the wonderful world of the machines. Clayton should be good to go.
Let me take this opportunity then to say that, okay, you're joining a call for Progressive Democrats of America, an organization that was founded in 2004. And our first guest today was one of the people who was there at the very beginning for PDA. And of course, PDA, for those of you who don't know, is perhaps best known as being the organization that drafted Bernie Sanders to run for president, to run as a Democrat, successfully drafting him. And that changed American political history and changed the political present that we see, as even people like Zohran Mamdani were inspired to get into electoral politics because of Senator Sanders and his prominence following his 2016 campaign. And every week we have a town hall at this time, so tell all your friends, family members, coworkers, and allies to attend. And we usually have featured guests, and we have themes. And today's themes will, of course, as I mentioned, will be focused on Texas politics and the upcoming campaign of Clayton Tucker, who will be our second guest in the first hour. And now we are going to do something that we do when we do have higher profile featured guests, so that people understand we are going to take the chat off out of respect to our guests, because the chat can be very distracting. And when we're through with the initial volleys of conversations with Jim Hightower, Clayton Tucker, and Kristi Lara, we will turn the chat right back on. So with that, I'd love to start with Commissioner Hightower. And look, Jim Hightower is an American political legend, and he was served as the elected commissioner of the Texas Department of Agriculture from 1983 to 1991. And he is the publisher of the Hightower Lowdown, which is notable for its in-depth investigative reporting. Jim Hightower, I want to start off with a question about the history of Texas politics over the last, 75 years or so. It wasn't that long ago that Texas progressives dominated American politics. And sadly, just in the past couple of weeks, we lost Bill Moyers, of course, who was the press secretary for President Johnson. People like Ramsey Clark was a Texan, and of course, LBJ himself. And then people like yourself and Molly Ivins came to mind. But sometime after President Johnson's terms in office, Texas really became an anchor of the American conservative movement. What happened to Texas politics, and is there still an undertow, a legacy of that progressive populism in Texas that remains alive to this day?
Well, what happened was money.
Mm.
Our party in Texas, as was the truth of the National Party as well, made a brilliant decision that they didn't need grassroots politics anymore, and that they could raise money from the same corporate sources that Republicans were raising money on, and then they would use that money to develop television ads, campaigns, initially in the 80s and 90s, and then it became internet work later on. But they abandoned the countryside, particularly they abandoned rural areas. We have 254 counties in Texas. Some 50 of them have no Democratic Party chair in them, much less a Democratic committee, much less any activism, any presence. In a rural area, if you have a yard sign up, that sends a signal to other people that, well, that's interesting. Why that person's voting for this person? So maybe we should look into that. But now we have no yard signs out there. In fact, in Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign in 2016, you had to pay to get a yard sign. You had to pay $5 to get a yard sign. I mean, you should pay the voter $5 to put a yard sign up. That's free advertising. It's just, but that was the level of stupidity and abandonment of grassroots politics that then resulted in low turnout. Because to take that corporate money, I can tell you from experience in state politics that people taking a check from a corporation, written on the back is the corporate agenda. And the corporation is going to cash the check, not you. And so our party shifted its message to a milquetoast, very light Democratic message, mostly on liberal issues rather than populist issues, taking on the corporate powers that are stealing from working families, taking on the corporate powers that are running roughshod over consumers and farmers and small business people, and et cetera. You know, all that. And so as a result of the party not standing up for those people and those principles, the people stopped standing up for the Democratic Party. It's pretty straightforward. As I say, turn out is based on turn on. And we were not turning anybody on. We were mouthing platitudes. And then voting along with the corporate interests primarily, not as extremely as the Republicans did, but nonetheless, the people found no message from us that inspired them to want to bother to go out and vote for us. So Texas became not a right-wing state, not a Republican state, but a non-voting state. We have the lowest voter turnout in most election years of any other state, and certainly within the worst 3 states in any given year, Texas will be there. So it's not a matter of us converting Republicans even. It's a matter of us turning out people who are little d Democratic people. They want the same thing that made our party great, which is policies that are based on our fundamental values of economic fairness, social justice, equal opportunity for all people. That's pretty much what the Democratic Party used to stand for, and it is what Americans stand for. And so we've got to get back to that. The good news is, in response to your direct question, Clayton and I are sitting here, and Kristi too, in Cleburne, Texas, little town, about 30,000 people, south of Dallas and Fort Worth, having just had a session here with local Democrats, and with Clayton speaking, also J.D. Schulten, who's in town. J.D. is running for U.S. Senate in Iowa against Joni, we're all going to die, Ernst. And he's got a real shot at it. J.D. is a baseball player,
yes,
a minor league baseball pitcher. and his team is playing the Cleburne Railroaders here this weekend. So JD just left because he's got to go pitch. They've got a doubleheader here today. So we're here with these Democrats rallying in a rural county to try to do exactly what I'm talking about with the local people to take charge and reestablish the Democratic Party around a message of fairness, justice, and opportunity for all.
So in a moment, the gentleman sitting next to you will be introduced by Mike Olis, and then Mike will also introduce Kristi Lara as well, and Kristi will follow Clayton. But one final question for you. By the way, one thing I can't resist saying, because I'm from Missouri, and it was a little painful to see Missouri vote more for Trump than Texas did. Now, it might have been 2020, might have been the same in 2024. It's a point of great pain for me as a Missourian. But it did signify that Texas was becoming more competitive than it had been in some recent iterations. Now, as for all of rural and small town, and as the former commissioner of agriculture in Texas, PDA produced a document, which I'll put into the chat right now, the Rural New Deal for a 21st Century, co-authored with the Rural Urban Bridge Initiative. And it's really predicated upon the idea that rural and small town America has become basically like a one party all across the entire country. I mean, there are these tiny towns, often with colleges or universities, which are an exception. But almost all of rural and small town America is voting Republican, and the Democratic Party has abandoned it. And yet, there's a general perception that rural and small town America is not a part of American society that is on the upward curve. It's in crisis. And so there has to be dissatisfaction with the politics of the Republican Party that dominate there, and the Democrats have abandoned them. How right is the opportunity for progressive Democrats to bring a different message in your mind to small town and rural America? I know that there's a lot of cultural barriers to the attractiveness of the Democratic Party, or as it's seen in rural and small town America. But just by bringing a better economic package and presenting it, how open do you think that could be as an opening for a revitalized and more progressive Democratic Party?
It is the opening, and it is the answer. And it's not new. You go back to the original Populous. Again, we're here in Cleburne, Texas. This town in 1886 was the site of the state populist convention called the Farmers Alliance at the time. And the Farmers Alliance teamed up with the Knights of Labor. So you had labor with farmers. You had black and white together in a political movement that was based on grassroots opportunity and grassroots fairness. And they had their own economic program. They called it a cooperative commonwealth, a different way of organizing the economy than corporate, and different than Wall Street. And they created their own political party, the People's Party. That was the most progressive party that America ever had in terms of programs that it supported across the board, not just for farmers, but for society at large. They had a vision. And that is the same vision that then became the New Deal. That is the same vision that Lyndon Johnson put forward, except for that little war problem that he had. As I say, I spent my youth trying to get Lyndon Johnson out of office, not knowing he would be the most progressive president of my lifetime. But that's all we have to do. You know, we don't have to create something new. We have to update it. We have to diversify, now considered a pejorative by the Republicans, but diversity is what America is. And the American people know that, including in those rural communities. You know, if you go knock on the door of somebody in Iowa, say, and say, well, what's the big issue for you? And they say, well, it's this immigration problem. And they say, oh, really? Do you know any? Has this affected you? Well, no, not directly. Well, do you know any immigrants? No, I've never met one. So, I mean, except for their own relatives who are immigrants, you know. So we just have to get back to that basic door to door, person to person, just gut level politics again. And when we do, we win. And the kind of people you're talking about who are beginning to win today, and it is happening here. We elected Greg Casar, very progressive. He's chair of the Progressive Caucus in the Congress.
Right.
Greg has a district that stretches from Austin to San Antonio. We elected Jasmine Crockett up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Tremendous voice, very active, very aggressive. So much so that she's panicked Trump, and they're now out to demonize her. Well, they can demonize all they want, but they're not going to affect her constituents who are for her. So the answer to your question is yes, we can build it back. We are building it back, and again, there's no magic to it. It's go to the people.
Thank you. And before I throw to Mike Ollis to introduce Clayton, and then after Clayton, Kristi, I do have to say, to hear that you were running Clayton, and we were on a whole series of calls around some candidates, Mike Siegel and Julie, I forget Julie's last name, who ran in a parallel. Julie Oliver, of course. And I, of course, was spectacularly impressed with Clayton Tucker as an organizer, as a progressive thinker. And so, again, with Anthony Flacoveno's author, The Rural New Deal, I could not be more thrilled to see that Clayton is running to be. And by the way, Jim Hightower, were you the last statewide elected Democratic official in the state of
not
Texas?
the last agriculture commissioner for sure, but one of the last two.
But the last two, and it's time to again have a statewide elected Democrat to have Clayton Tucker win, and PDA will be doing everything we can. Obviously, we're a federal PAC, but we'll organize in Texas to do whatever we can to support Clayton Tucker's candidacy. So Clayton, we're thrilled to have you. But Mike Ollis, who knows you better than I do, he's going to introduce you formally. Take it away, Mike.
Hey, everybody. Hello, PDA Nation. This is Mike Ollis. I'm now serving as the Chief of Staff of Progressive Democrats of America. And in a former life, Kristi, Lara, and Clayton Tucker and I worked together pretty closely to build up the progressive movement, not just in Texas, but across the United States. And so excited to be on this call because what I've learned is the best when people go from organizers to elected official, and that's what Clayton Tucker is doing. If you ever want to see a great TikTok video and a bunch of goats and farm animals, check out Clayton Tucker's TikTok. I showed it to my sister who fell in love with Clayton, I think, after seeing it. But hey, Clayton, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us about what's going on? And then, we heard about the history of Claiborne, but you're also from a place that is very close to the populist movement. So take it away, Clayton.
Sure thing. Well, thank y'all for having me, and thank you everyone who's joining us today. This is democracy in action. This is very important work. My name is Clayton Tucker. I, along with Kristi, Lara, founded the Texas Progressive Caucus. Kristi will be talking a lot more about that and some really fun updates there. I'm also the secretary of the Texas Farmers Union, and I do a number of other things. I'm a rancher in Lampasas, Texas. If you can find the center of Texas, you can find Lampasas. And I have a funny story about a goat that I just told some folks here in Cleburne. So I have this goat, and her name's Tweedledum. And you're about to find out why. It's because every time I turn around, she gets her head stuck in the fence. Doesn't matter what I do, doesn't matter how many times I free her, she always gets her head stuck in a fence. And the other day I realized something. Oh my God, my goat's a Republican. All they do is cause messes. All they do is cause recessions. Most recessions are caused by Republicans. They defund everything. All they want to do is mess things up, and it's up to us, the Democrats, to get it out. And I'm going to tell y'all another story, and this is why I think it's incredibly, incredibly important to be an open progressive, particularly a progressive populist. I was talking with it's a family ranch, right? Multi-generations. I was talking with one of my uncles who had a little bit too much to drink that night, and he came up to me and he's like, Clayton, you're the kind of Democrat I actually like. And I was like, oh, well, what kind of Democrat is that? He's like, well, you might be one of those progressives, but at least you're not a liberal. What he meant by that? Still not 100% sure, but this is my guess. And that is, I am unbought and unbossed, as Shirley Chisholm would say, by the big corporations, by the party bosses, by the folks who have driven this party into the ground, who have destroyed the name of the Democrats, who has sold us out and sold us down, who sent our jobs overseas, who have been not supporting our labor unions, who have not been supporting our farmers, who have not been supporting any of us. Oh, they'll give tax breaks all day to the billionaires. But when we want something, we're told tough luck. And they have allowed the monopolization of our economy. You go to the grocery store, you're looking at buying some beef or chicken, it's all owned by the same people. Yeah, they might have different brands, they might have different labels. It is all the same corporation every single time. And that's what this campaign is going to be about. Well, one of the many things. It is that we have to start taking on these transnational corporations that have bought our politics, that are price gouging us at every step of the way. And we do that by running as populist, by running as progressive populist. Because as my uncle said, I am the kind of Democrat he likes. I am the kind of Democrat he can vote for. Do a little bit. I'll end with this point real quick. I like to call there are three great political parties in the state of Texas: the Democrats, the Republicans, and the non-voting party. The only true swing voters I believe in is going for the non-voting party. They're the biggest political party in Texas. There are more non-voters than there are voters. We have to switch them. We have to turn the non-voters into voters in our camp. And that's what this campaign is going to be about.
Awesome, Clayton. I want to come back to you because you guys have done so much in Texas to take over the Democratic Party, to try and build up a progressive party. If you know a woman named Jasmine Crockett, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, I want to introduce you to Kristi Lara, who might have had a huge part of getting her elected at all levels of government. So in Texas, Kristi and Clayton helped build the progressive movement in Texas over the last 5 or 6 years. And was awesome to work with him before coming to PDA. The question now is, where do we go? And last time I was in person with Kristi, we were working on another congressional campaign, Greg Casar, there in Austin and in San Antonio, where we got, now the Progressive Caucus leader elected to Congress. So, Kristi, how's it going there today? And just want to introduce yourself real quick, and we'll just get a conversation going.
And it's going awesome, Mike. Like most of us on this call, I'm an organizer, so I've had a very busy day. We've had an extremely busy week in Texas with the floods, trying to get relief to those folks. Clayton and some Texas Progressive Caucus members got over 1,000 pounds of relief aid to those residents. Thankfully, they're requesting that people not send relief, but more dollars at this point. So for those that are able to donate, we ask them to donate to the Kerrville flood relief that's happening. You can just Google it and find their community center. But yeah, Mike, the work that we do doesn't end, right? It just keeps going. The last time we saw each other in person, it was block walking for Greg Casar and a local candidate that was running for school board at the time in Austin. And now we intend to push through with the Texas Progressive Caucus statewide races, just like Clayton's, now through 2026. So that is our goal. And we aim to, make a huge, presence as much as possible, the progressive voice, as well as progressive organizing on the ground. And we've done that for a couple of years now.
Thanks, Kristi. And I was doing, as we think about Kerrville and the tragedy that has happened, don't want to spend, I guess, so heartbreaking. Don't want to spend too much time talking about it. But, I went back and saw a Jim Hightower article from a couple months ago talking about natural disaster and how to respond. And then I went back to found a New York Times article with Commissioner Hightower talking about a flood that had destroyed a lot of crops in Texas. And so, for progressives, how do we respond in this moment where obviously the politics have completely failed the people, and instead of just saying we told you so, how do we respond as progressives and as leaders in this moment of deep tragedy?
So for me, there's only one answer, and that answer is to organize and to organize harder. Of course, I want to help the families that are, in grief, and I want to help the community rebuild. But what that means as a progressive is I'm going to knock that many more doors. I'm going to make that many more phone calls. I'm going to make sure that we're growing the movement, that we're touching base with those voters who just don't feel inspired enough to come out and make that difference. And, nothing can be truer than what we just saw in Texas. Several bills were submitted at the state level as well as the local level to get a flood warning system in place. I myself grew up in Europe, so there were a lot of alarm systems that still existed from World War II, almost on every city block. But here in Texas, to imagine that we didn't put a flood warning system in place to save money literally costs lives. And as progressives, we know that not having a single payer healthcare system is costing people their lives. People are dying. And so while we are in grief as a state and as a nation over the recent deaths, not just in Kerrville, but all over the country, people needlessly dying from floods, dying from, lack of access to healthcare, dying because they, aren't able to meet their basic necessities, like getting insulin. We know as progressives that we can fix those issues in the United States in this century, in this time, but we need to do that by organizing. We simply have to turn out the vote. And there's no easy way to do that. You got to go to that old-fashioned, knock on those doors, make those phone calls, connect with those voters, and explain to them, I'm a progressive. I believe that healthcare is a human right. I believe that we should be funding infrastructure that protects people, roads, systems, flood systems, FEMA. All of these things need to be addressed, and I believe the progressive voice is the voice to address those at this moment.
And Kristi and Clayton and Hightower, when we were working together back in the day, there was the awful freeze in Texas that also led to a lot of misery. And I thought that was going to be a turning point in Texas politics and history. And so I guess Hightower and Clayton, do you want to just talk to us about, a vision for progressive emergency response, and how do we build the systems we need to protect human life and to create human prosperity and progress?
Well, first, we just need to remind folks of something. Every time there's like, hey, can we have flood warning systems in this case? And they say it's too expensive. Well, that's the exact same thing they told LBJ when LBJ said we need electricity in rural areas, or we need plumbing, or we need any basic thing that we take for granted now. They're always going to say it's too expensive. Doesn't matter what it is, unless it's war. Then it's not. Then they'll throw more money at it. But for everything else, like, we have to call them on their BS. It is not too expensive. So we have to keep fighting there. And the other things is to show up for the communities, and not just the week of the disaster, but the weeks following the disaster. Like with my campaign team, we're organizing a team of folks, and we're connecting with communities, and not just the well-to-do communities, but also the communities that are being ignored, like the brown communities, the Black communities, the Hispanic communities, the other ones that are not getting the attention that a lot of the more affluent neighborhoods are getting, and showing up there and supplying them there and really helping them, not just this week, not just next week, but over the weeks. Because the propaganda machine in Texas is very real in these red areas. And I have a theory that one of the ways you break it is by showing up in person.
I have a bit of a follow-up, if it's okay, Mike, if I jump in. Just even right now, if people were to go to the Guardian website, the English newspaper website, the lead article on the Guardian is called "The Texas Way: Why the Most Disaster-Prone U.S. State is So Allergic to Preparing for Disasters." But the Texas way they describe in the article as being grounded in this, and I think we're all familiar with the motifs of rugged individualism that runs counter to constructive social organization. How much is that really a barrier in Texas? Jim Hightower, Clayton Tucker, and Kristi Lara. Is it palpable or is it overstated?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is real, but it's
Mhm.
also not. It's not ideological anymore. I mean,
Mm.
it is. They're not saying rugged individualism. They're saying corporate power. You know, they gave money to me, and I'll give money to them, and I will prevent money going to people who are in their way. So we have a government at a state level and at too many county levels too, but certainly at a state level that is wholly in service to campaign contributors rather than to the people, rather than to the public. So that's, as Clayton is indicating, and I just ditto what he said, that basically we have to go to those people, not with ads, but Woody Allen said, forget the exact quote, but Woody Allen said that 90% of life is showing up.
Yeah.
Well, we have to show up. We have to literally be there, and be there in a positive way, not just, my God, have you heard how bad Greg Abbott is? Well, they have heard that, but they want to know what difference are the Democrats going to make, and we have to be there with, as Clayton has indicated here. You don't have to reinvent a warning system for floods. As Kristi was indicating, Europe has had such things for a long, long time, but you don't have to go to Europe to have it. We used to have it here in Texas. We had flood control systems. We had fire control systems. We had all sorts of public involvement because the people realize that we're all in this together, and there is a public need that it might not be yours personally this time, but it is a public need of the common good that is going to benefit you. And if not this time, then down the road, it'll be payback time. That is the American way, not what they're saying, which is a system of greed and selfishness. It's hard to build a community on greed and selfishness.
And also kind of adding a little bit to that, they want rugged individualism for the people. They want us to throw table scraps to the people and have us fight over it. But when it comes to corporations, when it comes to big fellas, they're full on socialists for corporations. They're not socialism for the people. Oh no, we can go buzz off. But for the corporations, too big to fail. We have to bail them out. Oh, let's give them all. Yeah, we know they're making billions of dollars in profit, but let's keep giving them subsidies. Like,
right.
This is a full on, like they make fun of us or try to call us socialism, but they're the socialists, but only socialists for corporations, not for the people.
Let me just add one more little current thing there, which I've been reading about, and that is the AI revolution. It's called, which Meta and Amazon and chat, all of those huge, just beyond huge conglomerates are throwing billions of dollars each into systems that they admit they don't know if it'll work or not.
Right.
And what that is next year's bailout. It's not going to work at the level that they're talking about. And if it does work, it means we have no jobs in America. And they're not even putting any money into what happens if it doesn't work and we've offed all these people who have no income. What are we going to do? Well, they're going to go off to their islands that they own, or Jeff Bezos can float away on his yacht, which is bigger than most counties, but then they're going to come to us for a bailout. That's what happened in the 1980s collapse of the economy. It's what happened in the 2000 housing collapse in the economy. They always come in for bailout, and as Clayton says, they're the politicians who have taken money from those corporations and say, oh my goodness, I feel so badly for you. What can we do to help you?
Let's go to the stack from the audience and we can turn the chat back on, staff members in the background. But maybe a question for Kristi. One other thing that Texas got into the headlines for this past week was the Trump-inspired idea of a mid-decade redistricting. Trump obviously motivated by a desire to win more seats and fearful that the swing seats are not in Republican-controlled states, Texas being a Republican-controlled state. Is that going to happen? Are there ways to challenge it legally? And could it actually backfire on the Republicans? I'll throw it to Kristi, and if either Jim or Clayton want to chime in. Kristi, have you followed that story?
Absolutely. What frustrates me, Alan, is not that they're playing games with the vote. We know that Texas is one of the most difficult states in the nation to cast a vote. We know that voter suppression is real. I get frustrated when people use the language gerrymandering. What they really mean is old Jim Crow law, because what they're doing is purposefully pushing down our voter base, right? And neglecting the people who really would benefit from access to the polls. So we need to call it what it is. It is voter suppression. We need to stop saying gerrymandering. That literally means nothing to anyone. And we need to make sure people understand that they are drawing the maps to draw some people in and to draw other people out. And who are those other people? They're traditionally Black, Indigenous people of color, low-income people that they want to water down and negate their voice. So in Texas, yes, it's frustrating, and all over the nation that they do this. But one thing I like to remind not just progressives, but all Democrats and voters is, in a statewide race, you cannot gerrymander a statewide race.
Right.
So I say, let's fight them toe to toe. Let's, as I would say, let's keep punching. Let's go for those statewide races that they can't gerrymander and push our seats so that our down ballot seats that they're trying to manipulate actually are given a chance to win. And there's a lot of talk, right, Alan? A lot of talk about this. I look at one of my good friends said there's a saying, I believe it's an African saying, when someone says no, it means no, not this way. So I say bring the fight, because the people are on our side. Let's get organized. Let's get in touch with our people, and let's make sure that their voices are represented on the statewide level as well as the local level.
Thank you. Love the answer. And let's if y'all can stay with us till the top of the hour, I'm going to call on Ed Friend in a second, then Neil Penn. And I do want to say, in case I don't have a moment to say it as the hour closes out, we have all got to look into this campaign of Clayton Tucker, statewide race, as Lara points out, in Texas. It'll be in the 2026. When is the primary in 2026 in Texas? March, early primary. And again, PDA, both through our 501c4, which we certainly can do, but we'll even look into maybe seeing what we can do to set up a formal PAC. We're going to do everything we can to support Clayton Tucker. That's a slam dunk for us, because we have all been so impressed with Clayton when we've encountered him. So, Ed Friend, you're up first.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
My name is Ed Friend. I'm running for town council in Dover, New York. We are a rural community, but we're on the very edge of the New York City suburbs. As a matter of fact, we have a train line into the city, so we are getting more city folk up here, as they say. My question is, first of all, I'd like to say, Mr. Hightower, huge fan for many years. Thank you for all you've done for us. How do I approach, in particular, the people who the non-voters, with all the disinformation and everything that goes on in the media and doesn't go on in the media? There is a disconnect with believing any facts right now. I just recently found out today, and this is a good fact that I can use, that our local hospital is on the defund list for the Medicaid, through the Medicaid cuts. And, it's going to add a good 45 minutes to an hour to get to a hospital if this place closes. So I mean that's one good thing, but I need more than that to reach the voters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me just say that I think you answered your own question there, which is to localize the statistics and localize the national rhetoric or even the state rhetoric down to we're going to lose our hospital. Your OB/GYN clinic is going to close. The schools are not going to serve school lunches anymore. You know, I mean, at that level, that's where people live. And so talk in those terms, not in terms of use as few statistics as you can possibly get away with. Sometimes it does help to have a few at hand, but don't dump the whole load on people. Talk about values and talk about actual human impact.
Thank you. Neil Penn.
Yes, Commissioner Hightower and the Progressive Democrats, thank you for the courageous work you're doing. Commissioner Hightower, your witticism of many years ago, the observation, the higher the monkey climbs the tree, the more you see his ugly side, is even more so today. I agree with everything you're saying about the grassroots organizing, and I don't know if it's a parallel issue or a standalone issue, but the viciousness of Governor Abbott towards immigrants, going back to barbed wires and obstacles in the water, and just incredible heartlessness. Is there anything other than courts that could pragmatically address this level of cruelty?
Well, again, bring it home with their own words and with as many videos as we have. I mean, people are appalled. There's such a tiny percentage of Americans who actually think that is a good thing to be doing, to put barbed wire in the middle of a river in order to catch people in it and drown those people. So it has to be blunt, and again with with videos and with real life impact. This isn't just a political issue or even a rhetorical issue. It is an issue of who they are as people. I mean, what the hell is wrong with those people? That's the way I would address each one of those issues. What the hell is wrong with them? What kind of human being does something like that? And most people realize, well, no, I would not do that.
Hey, Alan, if you're there, I lost Alan again, but we have about 5 more minutes, and so not sure who has their hand up, but
Lara,
okay, if you can just take them through, maybe ask a couple questions at once. We only have about 5 minutes left, and it's a little hot in Texas, and so we want to let our guests get on to cooler temps. So let's just ask a couple more questions.
so Lorna, go ahead. Michael Neal next.
Hello?
Yeah, Mike Hirsch, for some reason, you're really garbled. Go ahead, Lorna, and Michael Neal, you're on deck.
Okay. I have a comment. Kristi, well, everybody in Texas, don't they have a provision like the SAVE Act does where you have to have your birth certificate match your current name? And most women, if they've been married and changed their name, it makes it really hard for them to vote. Don't they already have that in Texas?
So I'm unsure, Lorna, about the birth certificate piece, but I do know that if your license does not match your voter registration card exactly, or people have a reason to question, that they're able to either suppress your vote or your ability to go vote. I myself had a neighbor who was a registered nurse, and she had recently been divorced. And because her license did not match her voter registration, they did not allow her to vote. And that was even in a Democratic district. So it's important that we understand and also educate people that these laws that they're writing aren't by happenstance. They are purposefully trying to suppress not just voters that they disagree with, but specifically they want to suppress women. They want to suppress anyone that they think would be counter to the standard thinking of who's in control of the government right now. So yes, absolutely, Lorna. There are rules and laws like that in Texas that we have to work around. Which my suggestion is, don't change your last name, like keep your last name the same, because then you'll avoid any kind of like disruption in that sense, or suppression.
Hey, everybody, I'm back. So I think that Clayton and Jim are in a car in rural Texas, and yet here in Los Angeles, California, my internet connection is worse than their connectivity. I apologize to everybody. And whoever is next on the stack is up. I believe it's hard to tell from my interface right now.
Michael Neal.
Michael Neal, take it away, Michael.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you all for joining us. First of all, I wanted to, my gratitude for being on a Zoom with a longtime political hero of mine in Jim Hightower. But let's get to the question. How do we, so as a longtime phone banker, door knocker, organizer, I'm finding it increasingly difficult to reach out to folks who think that politics is not the answer to their problems. I'm wondering how we get them long enough to describe what politics actually is, i.e. helping folks to get their attention and to get folks to listen.
So I will really quickly say, and I want to apologize if I'm out of turn, but someone that did this just beautifully recently is Mom Donnie. He made it a real, working class campaign. So tying those issues to real issues that are affecting people and their everyday lives. I think that's the best that we can do.
Because I know a big thing my campaign is going to focus on is just plain affordability for food. And even on, like, if you go to my campaign website, ClaytonTuckerTX.com, you go to my issues, all my issues are really petitions. So like I'm trying to create a new style campaign where folks can really engage with a campaign. And I think we just need to kind of move away from like how campaigns and politics has been so consultant focused and consultant driven and consultant manage, and get to people manage, people focused. And I'm not going to say any of this is going to be easy. I'm not going to say any of it's going to be immediate, but just kind of returning to that old school style politics and away from what the consultant class has taken us.
We are running out of time, and so we have 5 people on stack. Maybe if you guys want to write your questions to info@pdamerica.org or Alan, ALAN, at pdamerica.org, we'll pass them along to Clayton Tucker, Jim Hightower, and to Kristi Lara. Just to close, and I'd be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to ask this of you, Jim Hightower. Obviously, there's a crisis of faith in the economy. Americans are really working harder and longer hours. They have now been doing so for quite a while. A great sense of dissatisfaction with the direction of the country. But we're also in a crisis of democracy that's tangible and real. I do have an abiding faith that the American public support democracy and want to live in a democratic society. And so I'd just be remiss having you here. You're one of the, I think I speak for almost all of the audience in saying that you're really one of the sharpest and most trenchant commentators on American society that we know of. Your thoughts on the crisis of democracy and the sense of American democracy being able to be redeemed by the American people in the not too distant future, because right now we're in a crisis on that front.
Yeah, well, there's no question that it is the new Supreme Court justice, whose name is escaping me at the moment. But anyway, she wrote a terrific piece this week on an opinion talking about that crisis of democracy, that she is concerned about whether it can continue. And the only way it will continue is because people do believe in it. And we have to reach out directly to them, not in terms of democracy as a word or even as a concept, but in terms of a cooperative community. Why are we letting billionaires make decisions about whether we're going to have health care or not? That is such a basic. Why are we letting billionaires make a decision about what our education system is going to be? I don't know if you've seen, but the Amazon and et cetera have teamed up they're going to teach teachers how to use artificial intelligence. Well, who elected them to do that? You know, what's going to be the curriculum? So these kinds of questions, I think, need to be put forward. Basically, it comes down to what kind of society do you want to have? And overwhelmingly, as study after study has been done on this, but more importantly, discussions around this, not discussions in political campaigns, but around kitchen tables and in community halls, et cetera, are being held on this. And so I would say we push that, ask the American people directly, think about this, and think about it in your community and in whatever forums that you have access to begin to have discussions of what do we want to have. Do we want a handful of billionaires to run everything for us and run us into the ground, or do we really want to have a cooperative little d democracy?
Thank you so much. And let me just throw to Kristi for a final thought, and then to close with Clayton, a final thought there, as well as information about his campaign. So Kristi, a final thought, and then over to Clayton for his final thought and information about how to support his campaign.
Yeah, I'll just say, Alan, there's so many amazing people on the line right now. Progressive Democrats of America was one of the first groups I organized with way back in 2003 when I was in college and we were fighting the Iraq War and trying to bring peace. So this group, this name, this mission is so important to me. That said, I know that the only answer is to organize, and we have to do it the old school way. Yes, we need to be online and we need to do media and we need to push, all of the new ways that we organize digitally, but we need to return to that face-to-face. When you look someone in the eye, when you shake their hand, that cannot be replaced. And Mamdani, AOC, a lot of the progressive candidates that we've helped here in Texas, Kassar, as well as Jasmine Crockett, they really did that handshaking, what we refer to as retail politics. So those of us that are on the line, I would just say, remember that it is that door-to-door, that face-to-face, that eye contact that is going to make someone turn out to vote, that when they hear your voice, when they know that you're speaking to them, and that you're with them in the cause of making their life better, to help us all live a better life and to struggle less. That would be my final thought. And the only thing I will say, although I don't know, we're from all over the nation, I will say in Texas, I have several candidates that won because they themselves hit hundreds, some thousands of doors themselves. So if you go out there and you do the hard work and you go door to door and you look those people in the eye and you shake their hands and you listen to their concerns, you absolutely can win elections. And that is how we will change this country and this nation.
Well, I can let you know that you have a fellow soulmate with Mike Fox, our PDA Deputy Executive Director, who absolutely preaches the same. So it is an honor to organize with you, and it'll be an honor going forward organizing with you. Onwards, Kristi. Thank you so much. And final thought for the day from, again, just applaud Clayton Tucker. I was so thrilled to see that you're running, Clayton. and a final thought from you on the conversation, and then how people can follow your campaign and support your campaign.
Sure. So let me end with this story. When I was a little kid, we were on my family's ranch, and we saw smoke coming from our neighbor's farm. So my papa and I would grab some burlap sacks, big tub of water, and we'd take off down the road. And I asked Papa, why are we going to go help instead of waiting for the fire department? And he told me, well, Mr. C, it's because neighbors help neighbors. And I believe that's the essence of being a progressive, the essence of being a populist, the essence of what it means to be a Texan, to be an American, to be a human being, is neighbors helping neighbors. Because at the end of the day, I think we all just fundamentally want the same thing. We all want to be able to feed ourselves and provide for ourselves and our families, and to make sure that we and our children and every child thereafter have a good life. Doesn't matter whether you are urban or rural, black, white, or brown, fifth generation or newcomer, we all want a good life. But we have all these politicians that use divide and distract tactics so they can pick our pockets and send the proceeds to the greedy few, to the billionaires and other folks. But when we come together, which we're doing right now through events like this, we can reject that scapegoating, and we can put up a true fight and really restore America for the working folks, not just the transnational corporations. I also you can find more about me at my website and social media. It's all the same. So you just remember Clayton Tucker TX. That is Clayton Tucker TX.com. Also, quick shout out to Mark and Roxanne. I saw y'all just pitched into the campaign. Much love. We're running a very grassroots campaign, but we're also moving along quite well. So this is looking like we're going to have some pretty serious momentum behind this campaign. So again, ClaytonTuckerTX.com, and that's also all my social media handles. Much love, y'all.
Look, thank you so much, and all the good for the world that Jim Hightower did, having been the Commissioner of State Agriculture for the state of Texas, the incredible good that you can do. This is a campaign that we will be letting the whole country know through all of our connections at PDA about, and be supporting in that manner and directly. Thank you to all three of you. Thank you so much, Kristi, Jim, and Clayton.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. And folks, so we are now 7 minutes after the hour, where we are now going to have our hourly update. But stay tuned. We're going to have the great Selena Vickers joining us shortly, and she's going to talk to us about reform inside the DNC and why it's important that all of us get involved in participating in and supporting reformers within the Democratic National Committee. So that's coming up soon. Now we're going to go to Mike Fox, though, with our PDA updates at the top of the hour, as well as what we can all do right now in these last 2 days in the election in Arizona's 7th special election with Adelita Grijalva. And so, Mike Fox, take it away, our PDA to-dos, with a focus on how we all can get involved in supporting Adelita's race.
Okay, if you ain't pumped about those three great Texans you just saw there, then I'd suggest you check your pulse, candidly, because they're just inspirational people, bottom line. Speaking of inspirational people, this is my favorite part of the week, my thank yous. The following people have donated today. Thank you so much, Nadine and Becky and Paula and Charles and Don. Dr. McCann, thank you so much, sir, for your more than kind $250. Gang, if anybody can match or beat that, please do. But my primary goal here is, let's, as a group, try to match his kindness of $250. Thank you. And thank you, Phone Banker Beverly, double dipping as always, and Phone Banker Carlos, double dipping, and Deborah, Phone Banker Rick, double dipping, Betsy, double dipping, Michael, double dipping out in Colorado, Margaret, Mary, double dipping, Karen donated twice. Thank you, Karen. Peter, I know you knock doors as well as donate. Thank you, brother. And Maxine, thank you. Bill, Phone Banker Bill, thank you, brother. Phone Banker Erica, and Carla, and Debbie, Phone Banker Aaron, Phone Banker Michael, Phone Banker Dr. Sonneborn, and phone banker Jane, and Arby, and Neil, and finally Michael, who's with us each and every week out of Chicago. Thank you so much, Michael. All right, gang, we're moving in the right direction towards goal, but like I said at the top of the hour, our primary goal here, initial primary goal, is 100% solidarity. Okay, 100% solidarity. Even if it's just $1 or 1 hour, let's make it happen as a team. Let's lean on each other in this process and show solidarity with those who are making the sacrifice to either get on the phone, knock the doors, toss a couple dollars in the tip jar, whatever. Just activity, 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 and solidarity is what we're about on this call. So I'll be tossing into the chat once again the link to donate, the link to volunteer. If you don't see it, just go to pdamerica.org and hit either volunteer or donate. We got to have the phones on fire tomorrow. It's the last day before the election in Arizona 7. So pile on, pile on, pile on. We promise to use your time effectively on a productive project, okay? Solidarity all. Back to you, Alan.
Thank you so much, Mike Fox. And I have my camera off too. And yeah, I mean, on Adelita's race, I just maybe want to hang on this for a sec. Look, this is a very important race for us as progressives. In particular, the two challengers she's facing are receiving a lot of outside money. And one of them is definitely receiving money from very right-wing sources. And the type of money that, and from the sources of money that were so instrumental in defeating candidates like Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman and Nina Turner, and defeating Sushila Jayapal and Jamie McLeod Skinner and yes, Raquel Tehran in Arizona. I mean, I just named 6 great progressives who could be in Congress right now, and the U.S. Congress would be a different place. And let's face it, public perception of the Democratic Party would be much better than it is right now, because if you had 6 more great progressive voices there, they wouldn't be thinking the party is just the party of Jeffries and Schumer and people who struggle to have a backbone. Because all 6 of the people I just mentioned all would definitely be fighting for the people and for democracy in a very forthright way. So having Adelita win is a hugely important election for us. And if we can maintain a true progressive champion in that seat, it's very, very important for us. And that's on Tuesday. And, it's a summertime primary in Arizona. So every person who we can reach and call and persuade to vote for Adelita, and for all the effort that's going into it and all the money being spent, it's likely not to be a large turnout election. So let's get as many people on the phones as possible and win this election. And it's for the best for the people of the world and the planet. With that, I am on this phone still and not on my main computer. And so I'll need a little help from the staff here. Is Selena Vickers with us, and can we make her a co-host? Is that possible?
One moment, please.
Thank you. Now, I should let everybody know that there were some special elections for the DNC, to become a member of the DNC, which there are a few hundred members. And there was a special at-large election in the Western District on Saturday, and PDA got involved with an endorsement for really one of the great advocates for affordable housing and for the unhoused in the whole country. And as she's LA-based, she's really right at the heart of the problem. So she's really one of the great advocates for people who are in that kind of economic distress anywhere in the world, and that's Susie Shannon. And it's sad that the mainstream of the Democratic Party has not really embraced a voice like Susie's, and they consistently create barriers to her remaining on the DNC. She had to fight a struggle that I got directly personally involved in, actually wrote a couple articles in The Nation about the foundation of the Poverty Council. And she is the founder of the Poverty Council, and it's an incredibly great body. But people didn't want her on the DNC. There's still those forces. But fortunately, we won a great victory on Saturday, and Susie Shannon is going to remain a member of the DNC, and the work that she will do for the people in this country, for affordable housing, for the unhoused, and for the poor in general is epic. So it's a great victory. Now, I, as people know, am a close associate of Jim Zogby's and supported Jim's candidacy to be vice chair. In an election in which there was tremendous enthusiasm for youth, Jim didn't win for vice chair. But the other person who I know whose work inside the party is just equally important around reform work is Selena Vickers in West Virginia. Now, fortunately, Selena is a member of the DNC, but she's going to join us right now and explain that within the DNC, there is a vote on Tuesday about who can sit on the all-important reform commission. And so it's an important election for us progressives because we need somebody who is so committed to our cause as Selena is to be on this. There's only a handful of voters. In fact, it's split right down the middle in that the only people who will be voting in her election are women members of the DNC. But here to talk about that election and to see maybe if there are people here who can help her by contacting women members of the DNC that people may know to encourage them to vote for Selena in Tuesday's election is from West Virginia, Selena Vickers, one of the great reformers within the Democratic Party. Welcome, Selena.
Oh, thank you so much, Alan, and thank you all for having me. And so if any of you know me, you know I tend to be sort of like in the weeds, kind of a rules nerd. So I'm going to explain what's going on because it is kind of it's very much inside baseball, but this particular thing is kind of like good inside baseball. One of the things that I have disliked about the DNC for a very long time and had been pushing reform about is, in addition to the people who are automatically members of the DNC, like your state chairs and your state committee members, the chair of the party, whoever is elected the chair of the party, gets to handpick 75 people. Now, keep in mind, there's only a little bit shy of 500 people on the DNC. So picking 75 is close to 20%, okay? Handpick these people to be on the DNC. And of those 75 handpicked people often are the people who get placed on the different standing committees, which if, you know, in that situation on the DNC, almost all of the decisions are made in committee, and basically the DNC proper just ratifies whatever is done in the committee. And so I've always felt that this is a very, very unfair situation and have advocated for election of the at-large and the standing committee members as opposed to the appointment process. And so I made this a big issue during the chair's race. And there were a couple people who were for it, and Ken Martin was one of them. Not completely, not all 75, not all standing committee members, but I think that it is notable that Ken Martin is the first chair ever to voluntarily give up power, give up his appointment authority to allow the DNC members to elect members. So what has happened is there are regional caucuses. So the different states and territories are broken up into different regional caucuses. And then there are different diversity caucuses, and then there's some councils which are a little bit different, but like there's a Black caucus and an Asian American Pacific Islander caucus and LGBTQ caucus and so forth. And there's a women's caucus. And because, you know, the women's caucus is the largest one, it's basically any member of the DNC that's a woman can sign up to be a member. So right now there is ballpark a little over 200 people who are DNC members that are on the Women's Caucus. So we have the opportunity on Tuesday, we're having our caucus meeting. We get to elect 2 at-large people, and 1 male and 1 female. No, I'm sorry, I take that back. We get to elect, I believe, an at-large, but the most important thing is we get to elect people to the standing committees. So there are 3, well, there's more, but the 3 that we get to elect to are rules and bylaws, which is by far the most important standing committee of the DNC. And I'll tell you about that in just a second. And then there's resolutions and credentials. Okay. So rules and bylaws, what rules and bylaws does is every charter or bylaw amendment has to go before this committee to get, debated and fine-tuned. And there have been some good things. There's some very, very good things in there. And there's some bad things that I would like to see taken out. The delegate selection rules, which are the rules to how you get to be a delegate to the National Convention every 4 years, how we select our presidential nominee, including the role of superdelegates, okay? All of that is done in, not only do they write the rules, but they oversee the process. So every delegate selection plan that comes back from the states, they approve it or don't approve it. And there's other things that they do, but those are like the big things the other thing is, and it's part of the delegate selection process, is choosing the calendar, which states go first. And there was like this big upset this last year where, I was always first, and then New Hampshire, and then that got, and now it's South Carolina, and then Nevada. And so, that calendar process is all determined by the rules and bylaws. Now, the DNC proper has to ratify these decisions, but if it's done in committee, almost always it is going to get passed on the floor. Okay, so very, very, very important committee. Now, you would think that all the reformers that came out for Ken Martin, and even for Ben Wickler, because there are a lot of people who, Ben Wickler was focused on some reform as well, maybe didn't want to go as far as Ken Martin, but still, the message that we heard over and over and over and over and over again was we have to do things different. We have to make sure that Democrats understand that we are that we're there for them, that we're not going to be run by, corporations and, inside the Beltway consultants. That was the whole theme of the chair race. Well, you'd have thought that all these reformers would go, oh, well, now for the first time ever, we have an opportunity to run people for at-large and run people for these standing committees, but they really haven't. And I don't know why. And for my part, just FYI, my father's been very sick and he passed away a couple of weeks ago. And, my life was, where it needed to be at that time, which is focusing on my family. But at the last minute, literally at the last minute, because my father had died and I had some more time to commit to this, I felt so strongly about the Rules and Bylaws Committee that I decided to run for this on the Women's Caucus. There are about 8 women who are running. The rules say that you win by a plurality, so nobody has to meet a majority. And I have been a little disappointed that, I've sent emails to all the members. I've made phone calls to all the members. I'm not saying that they answered, but I've talked to some and sent text to all of the members. So with 200-ish people, that's relatively simple to do. And some of the answers that I've got from people is like, wow, Selena, and I'll tell you what my platform is, but wow, Selena, I really like your platform, but I know such and such. And I've worked with them, known them on the DNC for so many years, or such and such called me first. Would you vote for the presidential candidate the first presidential candidate that you saw their ad on TV? No, you want to look at what they stand for. And because Rules and Bylaws is literally the most important committee, I just think it's really important that the DNC members understand that it's critically important that they put somebody on that committee that is a reformer. So with that said, the things that I very, very explicitly stand for is limiting superdelegate power. 3 national conventions in a row have said we do not want superdelegates to put a thumb on the scale. And so there was a rule that was, hashed out. It's not a perfect rule, but it's a compromise rule whereby superdelegates do not vote on the first ballot if there is a contested election. That has been in the delegate selection rules for 2 cycles, but those delegate selection rules change every year. And on top of that, there is sort of a loophole where those rules can be changed at the convention. Okay. So I think it's far, far past time that we put the superdelegate rule in the charter, which makes it, I wouldn't say permanent, it could still be changed, but it's much harder to change. So that needs to be done. There is also, I mentioned a minute ago that there are bad rules. One of the bad rules was put in 2020, September of 2022. They were doing a revision of the rules and bylaws, and they decided it would be a really great idea to put in a little caveat that if the National Convention, the highest authority of the Democratic Party, the National Convention passes a resolution that instead of that becoming like the law of the Democratic land, it will have to come back to the DNC, and the DNC would have to ratify that by just a majority vote. So basically half plus one of the DNC could nullify something that the National Convention says do. That's ridiculous, and that needs to come out. There's also this whole thing about this process that Ken Martin has put in place that allows us the opportunity to elect for the different diversity and regional caucuses to elect at-large members and standing committee members. That this is his gift to us. That is nothing that he is required to do. And if he is not the chair next time, it goes away. And so now that we have this opportunity, we need to codify that in the bylaws, that we continue these elections versus appointments. And lastly, there's a section of the bylaws that gets very short shrift. It's in Article 2, bylaws, Article 2, Section 11, and it has to do with low and moderate income people. And it basically says that you shall, state national parties and the state parties shall have programs in place to encourage participation of low and moderate income people in the party infrastructure, basically, and party leadership. And I rarely see that done. And in fact, I'm a social worker from West Virginia, and I go to all the rules and bylaws committees and meetings. And when I go and I look around the table, there's like 30 people, and I would say a good 30 to 40% of them are millionaires. I am not in any way disparaging that they are not decent people who, want to do good things. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying there's not a lot of social workers sitting around that table. And so, I just think that we have to make sure that there is representation. So what my ask is very simple. And I know that you guys have plenty of work to do on these other campaigns, and I encourage you to do that. But whatever your state is, if you'd be, and there's very few people, like literally, maybe, I think California might have 6, and everybody else has maybe, 2 or 3 women DNC members on this list. And if you would be willing to just call your representatives, your DNC reps, and say, I can send you my talking points, these 4 things that I want to advocate for, and just say, Selena's a reformer. We want a reformer on rules and bylaws. It's an incredibly important committee. And would you at least call her and have a conversation with her and see if she could earn your vote? That's my ask. And so I'm going to have a little, let me see, and then I'm going to hit enter in just a second when I get my my mouse over here, and my phone number. And if I can make that happen, let me see. Anyway, I'll get that done in just a second. But my phone number and email address is on there, and you can contact me, and I can send you the people who are from your state, and it would literally be just maybe 1 or 2 emails, maybe 2 or 3, and phone calls if you know them. And it all needs to be very, very respectful. Again, this is very, very inside baseball. So that's my ask, and I'm glad to. I don't know if I went too long, but if
no,
glad to take questions if Alan thinks we have time.
Well, I first have to say you do engage in a very honorable humility. There's no person in the country who belongs on that committee more than Selena Vickers. Okay.
No.
That is simply my experience inside the DNC, bar none. There's nobody who, and I think you could tell from Selena's ability to recite chapter and verse off of the DNC rules and regulations and the process and the commitment to fighting for what PDA has always fought for inside of the Democratic National Committee. So again, even people who are going to make calls for Adelita up through Tuesday, if you are in a state and you know your DNC members, please contact Selena. She has put her name and her email and her phone number into the chat. Please pick that up and contact her, and then she will send you the contact information for the women who will be voting in the election on Tuesday. And you can write them a very nice note, and Selena can forward you the language of the 4 pillars she just mentioned that she's focused upon, and encouraging just the necessity of having a reformer on rules and bylaws within the Democratic Party. And, you know, there's a lot of focus right now on the 2026 midterms. There's a lot of focus on the contestation within the Democratic Party between the progressive wing and the centrist wing as it plays out between public political figures. But for progressive political power in the United States to have a full impact on our society, there will be no election more important than the 2028 presidential election. And while everything that Selena is working for has a bearing on all those other aspects of how the Democratic Party appears to the public and what's going on in terms of the internal sort of battle of ideas inside the party, if we get to 2028 and we have a reversion on these rules, it's going to be so alienating to progressive voters. And when the Democratic Party is alienating to progressive voters, we now see that the fascists win. That's obviously unbearable. But also, for the Democratic Party to achieve what the public wants from the Democratic Party, we're going to have to be able to protect its internal processes and allow space for progressives to ascend within the party. This work is absolutely essential. So, you know, and I've been with, you know, remember Selena, we were in St. Louis together. That was a crazy weekend, because it was the weekend of October 7th, you know, and
right.
Boy, crazy weekend. I've never seen a Democratic Party activist be more committed to this than Selena Vickers, and Jim Zogby alongside Selena, and only a handful of other people. And nobody fights the good fight inside the party that I know as much as Selena. So there's some humility there from Selena. There's just nobody else who belongs on this committee more. So if anybody is out there who knows the women who are DNC members from their state, please, I encourage them to contact Selena and then get the information and call out to the members and encourage them to support a reformer, support Selena Vickers in the vote on Tuesday. It's a very small pool of voters. It wouldn't be many phone calls or people to contact. And I know only a subset of the people here right now may know the people who are DNC members in their states, but I'm sure a few of the people do. And by the way, you don't have to be a woman to be making these calls. Guys, you can call the women who are DNC members too. And I'll be doing that in California for Selena over the next couple of days myself. I mean, I suppose Susie Shannon will get to vote. So I'll call Susie among other people. There we go.
Well, so, she had to register by the 30th or else she would, but I think she's helping me, and she won, and I'm so incredibly happy about that.
Oh, there we go. Oh, that's a shame about the registration situation for Susie, because she just, of course, re-won and re-won a position on the DNC. But I'll be talking to Susie and other people, Dorothy Reich, et cetera, who know the folks in California. And obviously a state with a large pool of women DNC members. Okay, everybody, just final thoughts, Selena, and I encourage everybody to contact Selena who can help out with this.
Well, thank you so much. Let me just also, this group of people, you guys are so incredibly committed, and thank you so much for the work that you do every day. These other elections that you were working on, the work that you did for Susie Shannon, thank you so much for doing that. And thank you for giving me a few minutes of your Sunday afternoon. I appreciate you all more than you'll ever know.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you. And I encourage people to contact Selena through her and your email and phone number. I'm on this little handheld right now, so I hope those are
I
clear.
put it in. I put it in the chat a couple different times, and
Great.
I'll keep kind of reposting. I think it just kind of gets lost as it goes up. So I'll repost a few times, and I look forward to your emails. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Selena. And let's make sure we bring home a victory for Selena on Tuesday. It's a tough race. I mean, 8 people in it, only 1 wins, but that means, you know, only a handful of votes are going to win this election. So let's do what we can to support Selena's candidacy.
And the lady that got kicked off by Ken Martin because she's not a reformer, but she knows a lot of people. So I'm really concerned that, you know, we're not going to have a reformer on there. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very important work. And yeah, you know, thank you too. And so thank you, Selena, too, for also I think actually this was a great reminder to the folks on the call about, you know, how things operate inside the DNC. It is a rule-based organization, even though at times people feel it's not operating in a fair and just way. We certainly have seen that in recent years at times, but going back to 2016, most notably for, of course, PDA members and Sanders members remember stuff then. But the work has been done to make it a much more upstanding and honest internal organization through the work of people like Selena Vickers and Jim Zogby. And so we really have to continue to support them.
Alan,
and
can
I
I
was
say
talking
something just real quick?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
apologize.
go ahead.
I just happened to put my glasses on briefly to look at the comments, and there's just, I'm just going to say this very briefly. There's several comments about, you know, not funding the DNC, and I have been that way for years and years and years and years. But I do want to say that I don't think Ken Martin is perfect. I truly do not. But he is so much better than what we have had, in my opinion, in the past. And he really is truly working for reform. And I believe that this DNC needs a chance to work. And, you know, and people need to do what they feel is right. And I absolutely believe in donating to individual candidates. But this is really the first DNC in my life that I feel like I can contribute to, and that that they are truly, the current leadership's truly working to make things different than they were. It is not going to be as fast as we want, but I've already seen important changes in that direction. So I'm just saying, if your heart's in it to do that, I wouldn't say, you know, don't give because they're the exact same. There really are some significant differences this time around. I think it's worth giving Ken a shot at seeing what he can do in these 4 years. So anyway, take that for what it's worth. Okay.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, broadly speaking, that's my sentiment too. I think some of the, you know, there was some unfortunate messaging issues recently for the DNC and for Ken, but I agree with what Selena said. And look, Ben Wickler is a good guy. Has done some great work in Wisconsin. But at the end of the day, Ken Martin's victory in that election was the victory of the reformers within the party. Also, you know, this does fit into the broader political analysis that PDA has, and that I obviously share with PDA, which is that, you know, we're inside a 2-party system. Even Elon Musk isn't going to break that out. And right now, we're in the battle of our lives in terms of our constitutional democratic republic. And the Democratic Party is the institution, and the only institution in the society with the breadth and scope to defeat Trumpism. And we have to make sure everything we do with the Democratic Party, we have to try to strengthen it, make it better, so that it can be the party that defeats Trumpism, because it's the instrument that's going to achieve that. You know, and not a flip over to maybe my final thoughts for the day. Look, it's been very disheartening these past few weeks to watch some of the terrible rulings from the courts. For what it's worth, you people started to persuade me that they thought the courts were going to be a barrier to Trumpism, but you know, you can look at the articles I've published over the past 6 months, and certainly right out of the box, once Trump was elected, I was very skeptical that a Federalist Society dominated set of courts in the US, especially the Supreme Court dominated by Federalist Society types. At 6-3 level, we're going to go against the unitary executive theory when you had a Republican in power like Trump, and that's what seems to be playing out. It's horrifying, but there's a way to defeat them, and that is to win the 2026 midterms, win the 2028 presidency, get control of both houses, start putting Democrat-appointed judges on. And to do that, I think the Democratic Party has to be just like the last segment of our show, progressive populist party. And it's a work that people like Selena does on the inside that really lay the groundwork for us to be able to achieve that, and therefore to salvage and save our democratic society. So with that, on this handheld, I know Mike Olis had to go, and I want to thank Mike Olis for setting up the first segment of the show this week. I was on vacation this past week. I'm officially back on vacation for another 5 or 6 hours, and then I'm back to work tomorrow morning. And really want to thank Clayton Tucker, of course, running for Commissioner of Agriculture in the state of Texas. Jim Hightower, former Commissioner of Agriculture, state of Texas, and just an American and Texas legend. And Kristi Lara from the Progressive Caucus of the Texas Democratic Party, and Selena Vickers in the second hour. So with that, I want to hand off to Mike Fox and stick around for family time. And PDA will be back with another town hall next week at the same time. And everybody stick around for family time. That's where we get work done, and we hear from people, and we mobilize people to support Selena Vickers' candidacy to be on the Reform Committee of the DNC, and Adelita Grijalva in Arizona 7th special election on Tuesday. Take it away, Mike Fox.